That works for me. Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you, Mr. LaSalle.
You don't call
So,
me Mr. I'm Eric. Don't call me Mr. LaSalle. Yes.
Eriq, it's
Yeah.
so nice to meet you. So, I am Octavia. I am a thriller author. I have written over 40 books as an independent author. I have been all over the world so far. Just on me and my team, we have a very small team. Myself, my publicist, my agent. We've gone to Essence. I've spoken on a panel with Wanda Morris and Dr. Ian. Um, I have done a lot as an independent author. The book that you just read, Cutthroat, is it's been out for a year,
Okay.
and it has already reached. It's almost at 11,000 reviews.
Wow.
Um, it's in all formats: paperback, ebook, um, audio, and I've had so many conversations about this book, and I love it.
So is this the book that sort of garnered the most response for you and success for you, or is this
I will say it's number two. So I have a book called Dear Vicky, which is a very short novella. And it's simply about a young man that got it wrong. I did not want to write about like doctors or lawyers. I wanted to write about somebody that you encounter every day, right? And just a simple hello kind of turned him into like this madman. Just simple hello. That's it. And so that's the book that's won the most awards. That's the book that took me to Essence. That's how I met Casey. Yeah. So, and then Cutthroat came along, and it's about a woman that wanted some revenge.
so it's like I did unhinged and
Very unhinged.
yeah, and
Yes.
you're like, how far is this person willing to go? And so, to look to accomplish. The cool thing is it was a really, really busy week for me, and I got your book late. I think we were supposed to have gotten it.
Hmm.
And so first I was a little concerned because I was, doing a lot of time in the studio and then coming home burned out. But it was just like, okay, let me get a little bit, let me get a little bit. So it was like, these really cool little snack sizes, and you know what I mean,
Right.
and the fact that it's a novella, it's not so intimidating to be like, oh shit, I got to try to read this thing in 4 days, you know what I mean? And so and then you just go again, how far is she going to go? And you just kept going farther and farther, and you're like, wow, I'm never getting into another relationship as long
My
as
God. Well, unhinged is my nickname in the thriller space.
and you
So
wear
you'll probably see Octavia Unhinged Grant or Unhinged Grant. That's me because I don't have a limit.
okay.
And I discovered that you don't have one either. So I'm going to take that moniker off of me and pass it on to you because these books genuinely broke me down. Now, I read in different ways. I read as an author and then I read as a reader. And I discovered this series late. I discovered it in 2024. And I think I tagged you in it a couple of years ago because I didn't know that you were writing. And, when, I met you, it was on TV, right? It was as an heir or it was as a doctor or it was as a cop. And so I used to work in money laundering. And when
You
I'm
work in
work,
money laundering. Hold on, what?
yes.
You
So
can't
I
just say that.
used to work
What
for
does that mean on the legal side or the illegal
on
side?
the legal side, on the
Oh, okay.
legal
You
side.
can't just say I worked
I
in
work.
money laundering, and we're
So
talking about unhinged. So yeah, I'm sorry.
so I
Clarification.
worked for a bank,
Okay.
and I was a money laundering investigator. So I will listen to books while I'm working. I literally just left my corporate job in March because
Well,
things have gotten so busy in my writing world.
right on.
So I discovered the books, and I'm like, there is no way this is Dr. Benton that wrote this book. There is no way writing because
Oh,
you also narrate your books.
right.
So other narrators hadn't gotten the manuscript. So they were like, I didn't know that he was writing. And I'm like, I didn't know either. So I went down the rabbit hole of the Martyr Maker series. It was just so good. It was like, I'm telling everybody to read it. And so when I got this copy, I'm like, Oh my God, I couldn't wait. And you just broke my heart with this book.
Uh, well, we wanted the goal of Solomon was to give the readers a breather because I do feel like the first three books, I first of all, I tell people don't read all three of them back to back because it there's like a fatigue darkness thing. You know what I mean? Like you go from
Right,
one dark world to the next. So I always say you can do one and two back to back, just out of the curiosity. Then maybe take a break, whatever that is, a couple of weeks, a month, whatever, and then do three. And so four is specifically designed to sort of be a break from the procedural, like the first three are really
right,
procedural, etc. And it was also to keep teasing what's coming in book five. So everyone's been waiting for book five based on the ending of book one, based on the ending of
hmm,
two, based on so they could like, and so then some people were like, what is this Solomon thing? But now Solomon is becoming like this favorite. It was sort of it's a almost a departure because even though it's in the same universe,
right,
is it's more literary. It's more so the style of writing has changed, and most importantly, which is what I think you connect to, it is much more emotional.
yeah,
I think like book three, all of them have some really good emotional things to it. Solomon is an emotional book, period. It's not a book with emotional elements. It's an emotional book. And
right.
and I wanted to tap into that because I do believe, when I saw your video review, I thought it was hilarious because you were like, I've never cried this much reading a thriller. And that's what you want because you don't have those normal conversations.
Right,
Makes it different is that you can read this thing and have this emotional thing and at the same time then there's action, then there's suspense, then there's interest. So I think you can have all of these things. And so, some people have, oh, it's genre busting. I don't really care what people call it. You know what I mean? If that works for you, great. But I do think that you can have it all in a story, and that's
right.
that's the goal. And so that's the construction and the intention behind Solomon. So when like I said, when I saw your review, I was like, okay, it landed where it was supposed to land.
Oh my God, I was in hysterics because I'm like, Solomon seems like he is a guy that has never known peace from the age of 7. Like he went from being a happy 7-year-old to what we know today.
Right.
And it's like, it was just so emotional. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm reading this book wrong because I was a mess. And I'm like, we went through every stage from 7 until the end. And I'm like, when we met Solomon in book 2, he's talking Fee off the edge, like Fee, it's me, Solomon, right? He was like, I'm thinking, okay, he's this evil, he behind all of what we know him as. He is this, I don't want to say mild mannered, but he is this even he can think clearly. He can separate what's good from what's bad. However, some bad has to come along with the lifestyle that I live, right? So, because his part was so, I don't want to say small, and I definitely don't want to call him a cameo, but we got his speaking part when he was talking to Fee. Then at the end of book 2, we saw all of the things that he did. How did you know that you wanted to give him an entire book?
Well, I mean, it's twofold because my books are often loosely based on my favorite movies. And so
Okay.
um uh book one was kind of loosely based on my version of Seven, the movie Seven. Book two, because it focused on Fee's father, is my version of The Godfather. Well, in The Godfather, there's the character Luca Brasi, who is Marlon
Hmm.
Brando's right hand. And I've always been so intrigued with who is he? I know he's just the bodyguard and the consigliere and the backup, but who is he?
Right.
And so when I read the book and I found out more stuff, when I read The Godfather, I found out more stuff about him. I was like, wow. So I was like, I want to have a black version of a Luca Brasi. So he just started in the first book. He's got like there's just he's on one page. They go
Hmm.
get him to get some guns and Then in the second book, he has a conversation with Fee at the end, just before they go in and wreck shop. And,
Right.
and he says, "What do you think you know about me? Do you know that when I was a child?" And so he gives a little
Hmm.
snapshot of his life. That's when I was like, I think I want to explore him more because, you know what I mean? That was just a little paragraph, but he talks about his life. He talks about what happened to him when he was a child and blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of fill in some other pieces, but you don't quite know. So that the intrigue of that character made me say, I want to write more about him. And, having read, we're gonna probably have to edit out some of this because I'm gonna do a spoiler alert. But because you've read all three books, um, well now four books, I should say, um, there are three interpretations of Solomon.
When I got to the end, I'm like, oh my God. I literally sent she put the voice clip up, and I didn't kind of, after I, after I listened to it, I'm like, you know what, maybe I should have told her not to put that up because I don't want people that haven't read this book yet to get the same interpretation that I got. But I was blown away. But I really don't want Solomon to die. Like I feel like we need Solomon. Um, but what I have learned is that you don't mind, like I said, breaking our hearts because I was a mess. I
Well,
was a mess.
but that's I think look, you can appreciate as a writer, no matter what genres we write, we all want the same thing. We just want people to be invested in our characters and story. That's the most basic.
Correct.
And you get there the way that you get there. You know what I mean? Like when I was, when I was reading Cutthroat, I'm like, who am I invested in most? Because she's not the most likable character. You know what I mean? She's not just a victim. You know what I mean? Because
Correct.
bad things happen to her, but at some point she becomes more than a victim. So then you
Hmm.
start on. But the point is that I'm making is that we still stay connected. So we all want the same thing as authors. We all as storytellers be invested in my characters, be invested in my story. How can I help you to become invested? I, in some ways, cheated a little bit because what's the quickest way to make someone invested? Bring a child in.
Yes.
People are going to be involved, you know what I mean? And if it's a good little, like they're like, no one wants. I mean, there's probably like 0.2% of the population that's like, kill them. You know what I mean? But in general, people are going to inherently emotional. They're going to want to, oh my God, you know what I mean? And so Solomon, and we talk about the whole movie influence, Solomon is greatly influenced by Denzel Washington's version of Man on Fire with he and you know what I mean? So it's about so you take a bad and then of course it has redemption and it has all these things. So, but I wanted to go further and then I wanted to turn it into a parable. I will say this, and I don't want to be presumptuous in any way or arrogant, but it really is a book that's designed to read more than once.
Yes.
When you read it, you'll see the cookies that I've sprinkled throughout the story that supports all three. Like you go, oh, because Gabby, at the end, you realize, and some people don't.
Yeah.
And so, but not everybody gets that. And now, do you need to get that to enjoy the story? No, it's funny. I read this I read this review, like the reviews have been, coming in on Goodreads and, great, 5 star, 4 star, great, really great reviews. So this woman gave me yesterday or the day before, she gave me a good 4 star review. But she said, I mean, there's nothing. um, there's nothing exceptional about the plot. And I'll go, she doesn't get it. You can say many things, but you can't, this is not a usual. I think she said something like, the plot is kind of usual, something like that. And I'm like, she didn't,
She did not.
not everybody's going to get it on that level because there are a lot of people that don't get it, but they love the book. And like I said, she gave me a good review. But there
Right.
was that one sentence of her saying, "Oh, it was a basic plot." And I'm like, this plot is anything but,
Yeah, it
you know what I
wasn't.
mean? And so but that told me that she didn't. And so then here's the other thing for you.
And I got that too. And I'm like, maybe it's because, so I'm from South Carolina originally. So we grew up church every Sunday, Bible study, all of those things. So my God. So, like, what made you write it that way? Because, like you said, that review, she said she didn't get it. But
Right.
for me, someone who was forced to go to Sunday school every Sunday, then actual church from 11 to 2, it literally popped out at me. So, what made you write it that way versus saying, okay, this is this and this is that and XYZ? Because as you said, some people won't get it. And some people, what I've followed, they'll read reviews or they'll go to like Goodreads to see what spoilers can they find to connect with the book versus just reading the book
Right.
and figuring it out.
Right. A lot of them, a lot of them won't get it. For me, I've always, like I grew up with a single black mom and you had to go to church.
Right.
So but out of, I loved parables. I loved
Mm-hmm.
things that resonated. And then, from there, as a kid, then, I went to, for college, I attended Juilliard and NYU's grad school. So we were taught Shakespeare, Ibsen, Chekhov. We were taught the great playwrights. And the things, and I always enjoyed the dissection of their writing. When
Right.
an instructor or a professor would tell us, oh, this is what Shakespeare means. And you were like, oh man. Like now guess what? Shakespeare wrote for royalty and then what's called the groundlings, the common people. So the royalty when the theaters were designed, the royalty sat up, the groundlings were the orchestra. So now
Right.
it's just the opposite now, because the rich are in the orchestra and the less than rich are up high now. But back in the day, so he was writing so some of his stuff is bawdy. So that's for the commoners. But some of it is
Right.
so highbrow that the learned person would get it. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody walked out of there with their own thing going, hey, man, that was cool. You know what I mean? So I'm heavily influenced by that type of writing where I just feel if you're going to ask someone to give you, let's say the average book reader, let's say on average it takes an average reader 3 weeks to read a book on average,
Right.
right? I mean, obviously there's some that knock it out, but on average, let's say 3 weeks. If you want to ask somebody to give you 3 weeks of their life, like I don't want it to be dismissible. I don't want it to be McDonald's.
Right.
I want it to resonate. I want you to be able to go back, warm it up again and be like, oh man, this is, like when you make spaghetti, it always tastes better the next day. When
Yes, it
it
does.
seeps in. I aspire to, that's the kind of writing I do, that the more you understand, it seeps in. So now you look at this book and you go, so if we go back to, yeah,
Right. So another question that I have. So you have what you mean when you write your books, right? So when the book is released, you're going to have readers who are scholars in what an author is saying. Basically, they're going to say, "Well, no, he meant it like this, and he didn't mean it like that." And when it's time to have like these author reader discussions, and they're going to say, "Well, you meant this," and you're going to say, "No, I didn't mean that," and they're going to say, "Yes, you did." Like, how do you handle that type of interaction? Because a lot of readers that I've discovered in all of these years of writing is when they have their mindset on being right about what you meant, you can't change their mind, right? So, like, how do you
you gotta
handle
you got you
that?
gotta you gotta back it up with evidence. And so when I talked to you about the cookies,
Right.
so if I were to, should I encounter that type of obstinance and that type of, single-mindedness, then I now tell you, I show you, I walk you through. When this happened, this like here's this is minor.
Well,
Yeah. Okay.
they will.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
But
all.
one thing that I do love, like they will be willing to debate your meaning. It's never gonna change. Because they have already deemed themselves as I know all of what Eriq La Salle is trying to say.
Right.
Right. So one thing that I love about all four of these books, and even, you know, the prequel that you wrote, um, one thing I love is that you do not shy away from visual stimulation. Like you get graphic as to what happens in these books. And I've seen some reviews on every author's book where you have people saying, okay, well, that was too much, or he could have not said it that way. But what makes you want to be so visual versus just saying,
Where do I come? What's my background? I'm an actor. I'm,
correct,
I'm a director. So it's a visual medium. Not to mention, these books were always envisioned to become either a movie series or now a streaming series. So what I want to do, and you have to always use whatever advantages you have as a writer based on the life that Octavia Grant. No, see, here's the thing. When I teach acting, I always tell actors, I say, make sure you have the courage to use your shit.
right,
So the shit of your life, the good, the bad, it's your shit. There's things that only you own. You own a
mm-hmm,
certain relationship with your parents, with your siblings, with friends, with lovers. You own that. That's your shit. So as an artist, the more you can tap into that, it individualizes you. Because guess what?
right,
As I tell the actors, no one else has your shit. They got their own shit. You know what I mean? But see, no one can out Octavia. No one can do that. But if you're not honest and you don't bring it, someone might bring a more interesting version of you because
right,
you're not bold enough to bring. So if you bring what darkness you have, your imagination, you bring all these, but it's also the skill set. You've learned things in being in the department of fraud uh,
mm-hmm,
that most of us don't know about. So
correct,
when you start putting in some of those details, it makes you more rare. And so I think we have to always use the things that make us more rare. There aren't many authors that are actor, directors, producers. There aren't many. I'm not saying I'm the only one. I'm simply saying. So automatically I put myself in a small, so now I put myself in a smaller field. Plus, I have an inherent, because of what I do, I have an inherent obsession with visuals because
right,
that's the kind I'm a visual storyteller. I get to tell stories with cameras. I get to tell stories with lighting. I get to tell stories with wardrobe. I get to tell stories with production design. So as a writer now, as an author with all of that, if I can make people see things in a way that they can't see in other authors, that makes me more rare. That makes me
mm-hmm,
be in a different category. So I will always, and also I am, trying to, I guess, make it as simple, knowing the goal. Um, I'm helping people in my industry to read. You want because people start going and some of the compliments that are consistent. Oh my God, his writing is very cinematic. It's very cinematic.
mm-hmm,
Well, that helps me to sell this product
right,
because some books are great, some books are beautiful, but they're books that won't make for interesting translations into movies, and they won't. Like you just go, it's a good read, but it's a slow book. It's not. There's nothing big that happens or whatever. Well, with mine, you go, hey, I want to show you how visual this book is. So let me
Right.
take you on this journey. So when someone is being killed, and I try not to overstay my welcome. I try not to go too, but enough for you to be, having an experience almost as though you're watching a movie.
Right.
And you have the emotions of that. So that's why I really focus on that, because I think it's important, and I think it's the kind of storytelling I want to do from a business point of view. It helps me to potentially help sell this brand the way that I want to. When I'm done with book five, or probably after four. So that's why. So it's intentional. Yeah.
And please don't change that because, being a thriller author, I read a lot of thrillers. I don't care what type of thriller it is.
Right.
I love, for the dark stuff, believe it or not, I prefer dark reads.
Right.
Which is why I kind of write the way that I write. I don't mind getting gory. Somebody said that I
You,
was
you
splatter
really,
punk.
you really don't mind. You really don't mind. I can vouch for that. You don't mind.
I
And
do
and
not.
and cheers to you, because two dark minds. Yes.
But, I feel like when you're telling a story, you want people to feel like, okay, I am literally in this moment. When you can feel what your characters are feeling, it makes the book a whole lot better, in my opinion.
I agree.
Right. So, do you think that when you're done with this series, because we know that there are 5 books, are
Mhm.
you going to write another thriller, or are you going to step into a different genre? Because I have to admit, now, even though I don't write romance, I read it a lot. Like,
Okay.
I am a Kennedy Ryan stan.
Okay.
However, I will never ever write a romance, right? But some of your characters, like, their 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 relationships are just so beautiful, right? Like, I love Quincy's relationship, and I love Steve's relationship. I even love Clay's relationship, right? But they're just so amazing. Like, do you think you would ever say, you know what, I'm going to write a romance?
My agent has been on me, obviously from a professional point of view. That's a huge market. Black romance is, again, it's a community within it itself. It's a very big community. So what I've excuse me, what I've done is, if you notice, every book there's a bit of a love story.
Right.
The first book was a big love story. Like Quincy and Elena was. Now, some people were like, I don't like love stories in thrillers. And again, I like to be what's, genre busting or whatever, because I just feel like, look, I want you to be invested in these characters, because, and it's not like you stop the thriller storyline to have a the romance helps influence how
Yes.
this person goes through the thriller. So I know how to do that. But Laws of Depravity was a because Laws of Depravity, my very first attempt at writing a novel, which didn't go well, was kind of a dark love story thriller kind of thing. And when it didn't work, what I salvaged was the love story part. So Louis, for
Okay.
that, so because writers, we hold on to everything. I'm sure you have some stuff that,
Yes.
if it didn't work 20 years ago, you dust it off. You change some things, and it's cool when we succeed from that.
Right.
Laws of Solomon itself is based on a failed screenplay, if you want to call it failed. I always have problems with that word, but a screenplay I couldn't sell 20 years ago. So my point is, you're always grabbing things that you had in your past, and you're like trying to make something. So as far as love stories go, the next, I already have the first book for my next series, and it's suspense and action. It's basically it's a female Jason Bourne.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a sister who is technically the first female Navy SEAL. So she has all this amazing training, but then something bad happens. But she has the skill set. And so she starts doing these things. So that's the next series. Um, but I think I'd like at some point to do a one-off. I have a family drama that's a one-off. Uh,
Okay.
if I were to explore, like, for me, um, Aisha and Solomon is a beautiful love story. And
Yes, it was.
beautiful love story because the thing that Solomon, and again, we talk about cookies and we talk about the depth of things. Aisha, the theme there is that you can only have unconditional love if you are unconditionally honest. And so when Solomon is at in Central Park with her after the zoo, and he tells her his entire life story, every
Right.
every bad thing he's ever done, and she's holding his hand, and she's crying at how dark his life has been and how the dark things, but she never lets go. So this woman loves him unconditionally only because he's earned it, because he's
Hmm.
unconditionally honest with her. And so again, when we start talking about his journey, Gabby is a test for him. Compassion is a test for him. Um, uh, because the other cool thing about the book, well, things that I think are cool, is that Solomon, the first time Solomon kills, it's for self,
Right.
is to protect self. So that's now I'm not saying it in a critical way, but it's for selfish reasons, to self-preservation. That's selfish.
Right.
And I'm not saying selfish is bad, and we would all, so he kills for self-preservation. The guy puts a gun in his hand and says, so he kills for self-preservation. He then kills for profit because he becomes a mercenary, he becomes a soldier. So someone asked me, like, what do you think about all the people that's killed for Gabby? Was it worth it? And well, yeah, it was, because now he's killing for love.
Hmm.
So first time in his life that he kills for love. And he does a lot of killing for love. But my point is that he changed. That's all a part of that internal struggle. So when you layer those things in, those are the gentle things that I actually respond to. That's the kind of gentleness that I put into the love story aspect of it. But I love Aisha's story with him. I love how she makes this hardened killer tremble when he
Right.
her. I love how he's fucked up. He doesn't know how to. He's never felt these things. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's a small love story, or it's a short love story, but a love story nonetheless. Would I like to explore longer versions of those kind of love stories? Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I loved him as a father and husband. I just adored. I'm like, for a few years, he had peace on earth.
5 years. Yeah.
And then it was snatched away. And to me, this also shows how addiction can tear other people's lives apart. Now he's back in the bar, like he didn't just destroy somebody's life. It's selfish,
Right.
right? So I am one of those people that I will stand by my characters. I don't care what they do. I'm going to stand by them. I do not think Solomon was wrong in any facet.
Right.
From seven until the end, I think he did what he had to do. And I don't fault him for anything.
Yeah, but you don't fault him. And this is the interesting thing about crime. You don't fault him because it didn't cost you anything. But if you had a relative who ran a gas station and a guy comes in and kills him, an innocent, good, hardworking father, husband, you would have a different reaction.
That is
And so we
true.
have, so we have these, look, I think this. this is something that you and I both do in our writing, which is cool. We don't apologize for our characters. And
Mm-mm.
we put them out there and you go, you're going to accept them or you're going to hate them or you're going to love, but we're not going to kind of put them out there. So Solomon did whatever the fuck he had to do when he was a
Correct.
child soldier. And that he murdered out of revenge. He murdered first out of, there were like three stages. So he murdered out of self-preservation, out of selfish purpose. He murdered out of revenge. He murdered out of profit. He murdered out of revenge. Then he gets around to murdering out of love, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not apologizing for. I'm not apologizing because he was willing. Because even at the cemetery, he was like, "Man, I'm glad there are no pedestrian. I'm glad there are no innocent people here." Because,
Mm-hmm.
but if they were, that wouldn't have stopped him. He just got lucky. He's like, oh God, thank you for not having any collateral damage here. So you would be very much affected and different from a person who does things and there are ramifications that affect us personally. So from this story, we can go, he did what he had to do until it affects us because and there's a and he says it to Gabby. He says, "Look, I am who I am." He doesn't apologize for himself, but at the same time, he knows there's a line where when the guy in the gas station is pleading for his life, and he says, "If you kill me, if you take my wife's husband away from her," because Solomon tells him, "Turn around. It's not personal." And the gas station, this is the point I'm making. You feel a certain way about Solomon because it's not personal for you.
Correct.
But he says to Solomon, he says, if you take my wife's husband away from her and my son's father away, it's definitely personal. It's not just my life you'll be taking. And then
Mm-hmm.
Solomon's thought is he knew that the ripples of killing went far beyond the shores of one kill.
Right.
Those ripples they that devastates. So that's a father, that's an uncle, that's a brother, that's a friend, all of these people are affected. And
Mm-hmm.
you and I, as spectators, we can look at it and say, well, it's not personal to us,
Right.
but to the people that it is personal, they'll never get over that. So I didn't mean to sidebar, but yeah, that's a little side.
That what you are correct. You are correct. And I wanted to ask this question at the end. I cannot believe an hour has gone by this fast. So you know that I love this series. Love, love, love it. When I found out about it, I told everybody to go and get it. But there was one thing that stood out, and if you don't want to answer, we can just edit it out.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so like I said, in book two, Solomon says, "Fee is me, Solomon." However, when you introduce the African in book one, it's Azuma Debeko.
Mhm.
Was there supposed to be two Africans?
No, no. So great question, and I'm going to answer it. So I love the name Azuma Debeko. I love that name. It was just because it was there was an African fighter back in the day. I think his name was Azuma Nelson. He was a good fighter, but I love that name. So when I was because first of all, the first book was I wasn't thinking series. I just wanted to write.
Right,
I wrote book two because book one didn't get a publisher, so I wrote book two to now go, well, if book two succeeds, then they'll go back and get book one, right?
right.
So it was supposed to just be a one-off. So when I named him, that was it. That's all we were just going to do. And I wasn't going, he was just African. I don't even think I said exactly where he was from. He was just an African.
Nope.
Right. Then in book two, as I started thinking more about him maybe spinning off, now I start giving him history. And I go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so he's a child soldier. Okay, where's a good place? Now, Africa has many nations that deal with child soldiers, but I wanted it to have some historical context. So I was like, ooh, he's Ugandan. Because Idi Amin and what they did back then, it was, well, then you start doing your homework and you go, Africans are very, very particular about names mean a whole lot to Africans.
Right.
Tells you who their family was, who they blah blah. So people can just from an inflection or what they can tell so much about you. So when I started doing the homework, I realized Azuma Debeko is not a Ugandan name.
Okay.
And I didn't want Africans to read it and go that I didn't want Ugandans to read it and go, no, that's not true. So in order to make it accurate, I then had to switch up. So
Okay.
what I alluded to is that he kind of used, it was a name that he went by, an alias, but his
Okay.
real name is Solomon. And
Okay.
then so it ended up being a happy mistake of me not knowing like I said in the beginning, I just needed a cool name. This guy's gonna A, it's one book, and B, he's in and he's out, right? So
Hmm.
but now you start falling in love with him, going, "Ooh, I think he can have his own thing." Well, now you got to do more research, and then in research you got to be more accurate. And then as you start coming up with the better way to tell the story, and to put him in with Idi Amin, and to put him in with this thing, and you go, "Wow, that's going to make a great story." Oh shoot, this is not a Ugandan name. Okay, what do I do? Okay, so it was an alias that he used here, and now this is who. But then the happy mistake is it made for a much better title. I didn't notice till afterwards. Laws of Solomon. I could
Yeah.
Laws of Azuma. Laws of Azuma. I like Azuma Debeko. I love that name, and my agent loves that name. And my agent's mother used to read my books, and she used to just be like, "Oh, Azuma Debeko, Azuma Debeko," you know. And we were in love with it, but we had to give it up to try to correct as much as we could, not 100%, to try to
Right.
correct as much of the mistake that I made by not, but I didn't know he was going to be Ugandan.
Right.
I didn't know any of that when I first from. So that's where it comes from. So what you caught was technically I don't know if I can call it a mistake, but it's kind of a mistake because but it wasn't a mistake at the time because there was no future. It was a one-off. But then once I
Right.
decided to you know, go deeper with him, then it became a mistake. So that's what you got. You got the attempt to clean it up.
Well, some of the best stories come from mistakes,
Right.
right? And you just expound upon it and then you go back and now we're here.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I am so honored to have had this time to speak with you. Like, this has been phenomenal. Like, from the time I discovered book one, I was an Eriq La Salle fan, right? And I had all kind of flags in this book because it was just that good. But now that we're at the end, if you want to tell people where to get or where to pre-order, because we want y'all to have this book on
Yeah.
September. It's September. It's a
Well, so
must.
I have a website, IamEriqLaSalle.com that has everything. It's really interesting because it covers my acting, my directing, my producing, and my authors, and so each one has a separate page. So that's the easiest place to go. But the book is sold everywhere: Barnes and Noble, Amazon, independent bookstores. Like we always really want to support independent bookstores.
All
So the
right.
book is, and not only that, the book will be coming out in hardcover as well. So we'll have the hardcover copy, we'll have the paperback copy, we'll have the Audible. So it's everywhere. But again, the easiest thing is go to the website. It has an easy, all the information on how to pre-order. Of course, pre-orders are so important.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely want to encourage people. And now we're just under 2 months of it being out, so it doesn't feel like you're pre-ordering something 9 months in advance.
Right.
So we definitely encourage people to pre-order, but you can get all the information on I am Eriq La Salle. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, all under my name. And because I always love to hear when people read it. I love when they hit me and say, "Oh, this is what that's just
Right.
engagement and conversation." So I'm really easy to find. So
Okay.
it's really easy. And like I said, so it has all the information for pre-ordering, but you can get it get it everywhere. And like I said, we really want people to pre-order it and make this thing a bestseller. So that's the goal.
This is definitely going to be a bestseller. Like, whatever we have to do to get this book at number one, what we're going to do. Mr. LaSalle, excuse me, Eriq,
Thank you.
it has been a pleasure speaking with you. If there's anything that myself or my team can do to help get this book to wherever you want it, please do not hesitate to let us know.
I no look. I mean, I appreciate it because we have this thing that we say about the foot soldiers. Those are the people that just kind of come into our universe, and they are just big fans, and they're big mouths about it. So continue to be a big mouth about it. Like, put the word out, and because really for us it means so much. And they were like, hey, do you want to talk? I was like, absolutely, because I saw what a fan you were of it, and so it's my way of also saying, thank you. So, but that's, yeah, us putting it out there, and hopefully some of your followers, they become foot soldiers, and they put it out, and it grows that way. 10
Right.
people tell 10 people that tell 20 people that tell, and that's literally how it grows, and that's how it's going, and we appreciate it. So thank you for everything. Your passion really means a lot, and I've enjoyed the dialogue and opportunity, and just keep doing your thing.
Thank you.
Keep on being unhinged, because you're like, oh man, really? Oh yeah, okay. So keep doing your thing. But it was a pleasure, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's 5 o'clock where I am. Well, 6 o'clock now where I am. So it's what, afternoon, mid-afternoon?
3 o'clock my time. Yeah. So all right.
So have a good one.
All right, you too. Enjoy your week.
Bye.
All right.